Ukrainian Prime Minister, Mr. Denis Šmyhal, and the Commission was represented by Commissioner Oliver VÁRHELYI, so they will brief you about the content of the discussions, and then we will take the questions. High Representative, as always, you are the first to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you to all of you for attending this press conference. Prime Minister, last time we had this meeting, this Association Council meeting, it was in February, and it was before, just before, the Russia aggression against your country. The world is a very different place today. 1 year later, we are living in a completely different situation. But we are continuing meeting together, discussing our association as the main political goal. I am happy that today, for the first time, we are having this council with Ukraine, and Ukraine being a candidate country for European Union membership. Putin wanted to occupy, to destroy, and to colonize Ukraine, and instead he has been pushing Ukraine closer to the European Union. He also has been strengthening our resolve to help to build a modern, a democratic, and independent Ukraine as an integral part of the European family. Putin wanted just the contrary. He could never imagine that 6 months after launching the war, he would be in a situation like this. Ukraine closer to the European Union, and the European Union strengthening our support to you. To build, I repeat it, a modern, democratic, sovereign, independent Ukraine as an integral part of the European family. Prime Minister, dear Denis, this is your first visit to Brussels since the start of the Russian aggression against your country. I promised you in spring, when we met in Kiev, that we will hold this council together in Brussels, and here we are. And I want also to remember that in January, last January, when I visited the Donbass, and I visited to you in Kiev, you told me, I hope that if the Russian attacks us, you will support us. You will at least provide the arms to reject the invasion. And I am proud to say that I promise you that if this is going to happen, we would be supporting you, and we are doing that. And allow me to say that we salute your courage, the courage of the Ukrainian people. You did not kneel in front of a huge, heavily armed aggressor. By the contrary, Ukraine has been standing, fighting for your freedom, for your independence, and on doing that, you are fighting for all of us. As many European leaders have said, your fight is our fight. At stake is the future of our peaceful neighborhood, a fellow democracy, but also the wider principles of the European global security. Not less than that. I said that many times. You don't need applause, you don't need nice words, you don't need rhetoric, you need concrete support, you need physical support, you need weapons, you need the support that goes beyond the European landscape, reaching the rest of the world, explaining to everybody which are the causes and the consequences of this war. And we are providing it. The main message from today's meeting to the whole world is that the European Union will continue supporting Ukraine. Whatever threat, whatever blackmail Russia can put on us. We will provide our support politically, financially, humanitarian, and military, as long as it takes, and as much as needed. The first goal of our support is to help Ukraine to end the war, because we want this war to end as soon as possible, but not on any way. We want this war to end, respecting the sovereignty of Ukraine. And the long-term objective that goes behind the war is to support Ukraine to win the peace. And to win the peace means to build, as I said before, a modern, democratic, and independent and prosperous Ukraine. Our meeting today, dear Prime Minister, is also a proof of the resilience of Ukraine, of its people, of your institutions, despite your Russian aggression. It also underlines the importance of our relation, which is advancing faster than ever. During our meeting, we reiterated in the strongest possible terms our condemnation of the Russian war of aggression that has to stop, and unconditionally withdraw from the entire territory of Ukraine with its internationally recognized borders. This certainly includes the actions of Russia around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The last news that we got about the situation there are increasingly worrisome. There is a nuclear gamble that has to stop. There is a nuclear gamble playing with fire, which is another example of Russia's reckless behavior. Disdain for international law, basic principles of nuclear safety. We emphasize our joint support to the efforts of the International Atomic Energy Agency and underline the need for Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to remain an integral part of the Ukrainian energy system and a demilitarized situation. Dear Prime Minister, with your application to European Union membership, you took the commitment to intensify the reform efforts, because before the war you need reform, and these reforms are still needed. And today we took stock of the progress of our bilateral agenda, the Ukraine reform path, both of which have been advanced at a remarkable rate over the past month, and that despite, or maybe due to, the Russian aggression. We underline the importance to follow up on the recommendations set out in the Commission. Here's the Commission VÁRHELYI, who will develop more on that, on the Commission opinion on Ukraine membership application. And certainly in the key areas of rule of law and anti-corruption, we welcome the recent steps taken by you, but also we encourage further actions. We also welcome your important progress in the human rights field. We commend your ratification of the Istanbul Convention, a major step in protecting women and girls from all kinds of sexual and gender-based violence. We also focus on the need to ensure accountability for Russian war crimes. We fully support international and Ukrainian efforts in this matter. Finally, Ukraine still needs to ratify the Rome Statute in order to benefit fully of the rights of a full member of the International Criminal Court. An issue which goes further our relationship is the grain export from Ukraine. And we knew a lot about the consequences of this United Nations brokered agreement and the facilitation for the export of more than 10 million tons of agricultural product from Ukraine. Today we have signed several agreements on Ukraine participation in our customs and fiscal programs, on digital euro programs. Oliver will debrief on our discussion on this important achievement made in our extremely wide sectorial cooperation agenda. The Convention on the Simplification of Formalities in Trade in Goods and the Convention on the Common Transit Procedure that will be able to join us the 1st of October is another key success. All in all, to summarize, it's clear that the reforms and sustainable reconstruction will take time, but let me underline that Ukraine can rest assured that the European Union will support you all the way on your European path. as a fully independent and sovereign country. Thank you.
Thank you. Pane premiére, будь ласка.
Dear Mr. High Representative, dear Mr. Commissar, dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be here in person, happy to have these personal meetings with our European partners, and happy to have this fruitful meeting of the 8th Association Council. And now it's happening in the backdrop of the Russian aggression and unprecedented challenges for Ukraine and Europe in general. Today, Ukraine is paying a very high price for its independence and for our European choice. At the same time, this is the first meeting of Association Council in a new status for Ukraine. Ukraine is grateful to the EU for its historic decision to give our country candidate status. Thank you very much for that. This decision has become a real demonstration of solidarity with Ukraine and a symbol of recognizing that Ukraine belongs to the European family. As you mentioned today, Mr. Josep, indeed, irrespective of the war, we're meeting here. We're discussing European integration. We're holding this Association Council agreement, and it's our conscious choice to be part of Europe. The Ukrainian people have demonstrated the unity for the sake of a European future, and the Ukrainian authority will do everything in order for our path to Europe would be as quick as possible and wouldn't take dozens of years. We've discussed the algorithm of our actions in moving to negotiation process for us to join the EU. We believe that this process will give us understanding on the time frame of this transition to negotiation process and membership of Ukraine into the EU. I would like to thank the European partners for the complex sanction, humanitarian, military support in this decisive time for Ukraine.
За оперативні рішення і
We are very grateful for quick decisions that were taken and for this very important assistance. Ukraine is fighting and will continue to fight until victory. Unfortunately, we see no signs of Russia willing to stop the war. And this is why we need more modern weapons, such as air defense, missile defense, anti-ship defense. We need armored hardware, aircraft, BPLA, etc., etc. And we are grateful to the European Peace Facility. We are grateful for the assistance that has been given to our armed forces. The stepping up of the military capacity and sanctions pressure against Russia are two key approaches to success. We are thankful for the most recent package of sanctions, and we call upon our partners to do a number of things, including introduce a full embargo on the energy carriers from Russia and to switch off Russian banks and Belarusian banks from the SWIFT system. We would like to discuss these questions, including crimes committed by the Russian citizens in Ukraine, at the next meeting. We are also thankful for the assistance to the tune of 9 billion euro. We have already received 1 billion euro, which has been a great help in these very difficult times. And we hope that the second and the third tranches will be paid as soon as possible. We also discussed joint steps with regards to the further integration of Ukraine in the internal market. Even before the war, we identified a number of areas that where we need to move as soon as possible: energy, customs, digital, and other visa-free regimes. And we can already talk about very good results. I would like to thank for the invitation to join the Convention on Joint Transit and the Trade Facilitation. We are already undertaking internal procedures. We hope that we can accede on the 1st of October. We also signed agreements on cooperation in the framework of customs and fiscalis, and we will continue to cooperate in the fiscal and the customs areas. We are also grateful to the assistance granted to us in the area of digital transformation, and we will continue moving towards a joint market, digital market with the EU. We signed the Digital Europe program. It has a budget of 7.5 billion euros and includes very important digital technologies. We're also joining the roaming space in the EU, and I'm grateful to the European mobile operators for quick actions to reduce or cut connection tariffs for Ukrainians in these times. We're also looking forward to the integration of the energy markets. We can already feel the benefits of the energy visa-free regime. The EU is taking every effort in order to reduce energy deficiency from Russia, and we can replace, to a large extent, we can replace the Russian imports. The 30 billion cubic meters is what we have in our gas stores, and we can offer some of it to our European partners in order to replace the Russian Federation in this unstable market. A very good progress we have in the area of trade. Our manufacturers can increase export to the European Union. This will strengthen our economy and facilitate our integration in the internal market. And the economic visa-free regime will be the first step to full permanent liberalization of trade between the EU and Ukraine. Amongst our strategic priorities is the ACA agreement and the resumption of the mission. We hope that the mission will be resumed as soon as possible. We also have joined the road transport visa-free regime, the road freight transport visa-free regime, and we are grateful for the solidarity on the part of the EU, which facilitates problem-free import of various goods. Also, we are thankful for the updated TNT roadmaps. Ukraine has been included in the transport corridors, and this is a very good signal of solidarity with our country and an important contribution to the approximation between the Ukraine and the EU. Also, we'd like to suggest that Ukrainian parts of the Danube River are included in the roadmaps, that this would be very important in today's situation. I would also like to once again thank you sincerely for this very fruitful dialogue in the circle of friends and partners. We're preparing for the next 25th summit, EU-Ukraine summit. We're grateful for the positive assessment of our progress. We're thankful for the steadfast support for our nation in the face of Russian aggression. Our European path is irreversible. Our future is in the EU, and the future of the EU is with Ukraine. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much. I also want to welcome Prime Minister Shmyhal. And first, of course, we need to applaud the resilience of the people of Ukraine. And of course, for the resistance the people of Ukraine and its state is showing. And not only that, but the state continues to function under this huge pressure the war is putting Ukraine under. We have, I think, covered many, many topics. All of them have been listed. Let me just grab a few for you. We're pleased, of course, first of all, that Ukraine now is an EU candidate country. This has created already a positive momentum we see in the country for advancing the reforms, despite all the challenges existing. And it is therefore very important that Ukraine has taken a keen interest in this, but also that it pursues this keen interest throughout the process. Of course, the progress of Ukraine towards the EU will require time and serious efforts. And at this stage, we recommend Ukraine to focus on the implementation of the 7 steps foreseen in our opinion and confirmed by the European Council, meaning strengthening the rule of law, fight against corruption and money laundering, as well as ensuring the rights of persons belonging to national minorities as key elements in this context. Of course, needless to say that you can count on our support and our engagement, and of course we are ready to follow this very, very closely with our friends in Kiev and to help the country to move forward on its European path. As the High Representative already mentioned, our bilateral agenda has advanced significantly since the last Association Council, despite the war and Russian aggression against Ukraine. For example, on trade relations, earlier this year, the EU has taken an unprecedented decision by adopting full liberalization of all outstanding duties under the Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Area, the DCFTA, also known. Moreover, the application of safeguard and anti-dumping measures on imports of Ukrainian steel has also been suspended. We expect these measures to boost the existing trade flows from Ukraine to the EU. Ukraine's association to the Digital Europe program is another good example, where strong bilateral cooperation and an important step in integrating Ukraine into the EU's digital single market has been made. We have also discussed Ukraine's ongoing engagement in implementing its commitments related to the telecommunications services sector, which, if fully met, can lead to an internal market treatment for this sector. I would also particularly like to mention the roaming issue, which was also picked up by the Prime Minister, where we are now exploring legally sound options for associating Ukraine fully within our roaming area to enjoy the same lowered roaming tariffs between the EU and Ukraine. Of course, not only for the markets, but also for the people to be able to maintain contact. We have also recalled the signature earlier this summer of the temporary road transport agreement, which helps to ease the difficult situation in the transport sector. Of course, all these steps put together gradually and surely bring our economies and societies even closer together. Today, we have also discussed our ongoing support to Ukraine, which now is at 9.5 billion euros since the start of the war by Russia. And Ukraine has urgent short-term financial needs, and we're working hard to advance as quickly as possible on the disbursement of the remaining assistance of the 9 billion euros macrofinancial assistance decided by the European Council. I'm also pleased that today we've been able to sign, together with the government of Ukraine, a budget support program of €500 million in grants, and this should help the people of Ukraine when it comes to the key challenge of housing, of restarting education and schools, and of course also to help the internally displaced and the refugees in Ukraine. And I do hope that with this we're also contributing in a significant way to consolidate the agriculture sector in Ukraine. In addition to the urgent needs, of course, we have discussed longer-term perspectives, namely the recovery and reconstruction after the war. And we are committed to support these efforts of Ukraine. And we are ready to co-lead with the Ukrainian authorities the reconstruction platform, while, of course, counting on the support of our partners as donors to come around and contribute to this effort. In conclusion, I want to, of course, reiterate, as it was already done by High Representative, our unwavering support the sovereign and independent Ukraine, and we support the territorial integrity of Ukraine, and it is very clear that Russia needs to respect international law, and it has to immediately stop all aggression and return to its borders. Our objective is to help Ukraine emerge stronger and more resilient from the devastation of this invasion. Ukraine's future is in the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have space for a few questions. First, Dmitro, please, you have a microphone on the left.
Dmitry Shkurko, National News Agency of Ukraine. Thank you for the floor. High Representative, today in Prague, during Interparliamentary Conference on Security, we have had some kind of views which were calling to EU to cancel the military supply to Ukraine and to push Ukraine to some kind of negotiations with the country which is obviously a country of aggressor war. So that from your point of view, how widespread such ideas are among the EU countries, because that is exactly reflects the Russian narrative about that issue, and how dangerous that issue is for unity of European Union as such. And for Prime Minister Shmyhal, if I may, the European integration and full-scale membership demands consensus between 27 member states. This could be a long process. In the time being, some scientists and academics in EU propose to consider some kind of gradual integration of Ukraine in other European structures, for example, like European Economic Area. How that ideas are acceptable for Ukrainian side. Thank you so much.
Well, yes, this morning it was an interparliamentarian meeting. Let me clarify, it was not the European Parliament alone. There were representatives of all member states' parliament, Congress and Senate, which reflects the opinions, the political opinions in the whole European Union member states. And certainly there are people who are in a position which is certainly minoritarian, but they have the right to express their points of view. And some of them express their concerns about the prolongation of the war and how our sanctions and our military support to Ukraine is affecting the war. My interlocutors are the government, the foreign affairs ministers, and that represents a member state. And what can I say is that in Prague, 1 week ago, it was a clear, complete, unwavering support of all governments represented there to our position. There are political parties, there are members of the European Parliament who have a different opinion, and I answered to them this morning, but they are not representative of the position of the member states.
Наша мета – членство в Європі.
Our goal is membership in the European Union. Our government and our society are united as never before and committed to achieving this goal. And we are sparing no effort in order to move as quick as possible. By the end of the year, we hope to implement all of the 7 conditions that were elaborated for us. And we will be prepared to join the negotiation after the procedure of negotiation with regards to membership. We are prepared to consider, well, also work with the conditions for other visa-free regimes, digital regimes, customs visa-free regimes, etc. These are all parts of the process, and that's great. But what we are interested in is full integration, full membership in the European Union. For the time being, This is the objective of the European society, of the Ukrainian society, Ukrainian government, and as I already mentioned, we are monolith in this commitment.
Is down the corridor.
Closer to the microphone, please.
It's not working.
Not working.
Try to speak up louder directly into the mic.
Try to make the microphone work.
Yes.
Doesn't work.
It's not turned on.
Okay. I have a question regarding the Iran nuclear deal, please. Tehran is asking now for more guarantees and is seeking closure of the investigation of the Atomic International Agency. The investigation is asking to close this proof, and the United States says this is not a constructive position. So I would like to know how do you assess these petitions, if you think this is a reasonable request, as you said, to the previous response. Thank you very much.
Well, we haven't been talking about that, no? You know, it was not part of the Association Council. But if you allow me, I will divert our attention from our relations and to provide an answer to this question. Look, let me remind, on the past 8th of August, it means almost 1 month ago, I tabled a carefully balanced text, taking into account all positions of all parties. At a certain moment, my responsibility as coordinator is to say, that's enough. This is the most balanced text I can produce, taking into account all point of views. This text was very well received, and I got a positive feedback from all partners. Then we started a process of interactions, you know, it's an interactive process. And an interactive process is good if it converges. I mean, if the positions are closer after the interaction end than before. And they were converging. They were converging to a closer position. And the initial requests that I received were reasonable from both parts, and they were taken on board without altering the text fundamentally. But then the last interaction is not converging, it's diverging. And the positions are not closer in n+1 than in n. By the contrary, in n+1 are further than in n. That's very much worrisome. If the process doesn't converge, the whole process is in danger. So I have to say that the last answer I got, if the purpose is to close the deal quickly, if the purpose is that, it's not going to help it. It's not going to help it. So what I'm doing, to keep consulting with all other GCPOA participants, and in particular the US, because it's a request that has to be fulfilled by the US in particular, not the only one, and on how to proceed. But I'm sorry to say that I am less confident today than 28 hours before about the conversions of the negotiation process and about the prospects of closing the deal right now.
Okay, thank you. Let's go back to Ukraine. We take question from Ukrainian colleagues who are connected mostly from Kiev via Zoom. So I see Sergei Sidorenko was first to raise the hand. Sergei, your mic should be open by now, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question to both Prime Minister Шмyhal and participants from European side. Пане прем'єр-міністр, я спитаю.
Mr. Prime Minister, I will ask you in Ukrainian, and then I put my question to colleagues in English. Let me clarify something about the future of Ukraine and the EU that you've discussed. You briefly mentioned that you presented your positions about that. As far as I'm aware, you were talking about some new model, how Ukraine should behave, and the EU, in view of the fact that negotiations have not yet started, but the association agreement has been almost finalized.
From different perspective for European colleagues, so Ukraine declares that we are about to fulfill, to complete implementation of the association agreement to the possible degree. And we are about to start negotiations on membership, on accession, I hope so. So do you see some cohesion of association agreement and our pre-accession state? Did you promise something new to Ukrainian Prime Minister? Thank you very much.
Promise.
Якщо дозволите, я почну.
Well, if you allow me, I will start. The association agreement has been finalized by 65% roughly. We're actively moving in its implementation. We really have the ambition to finalize it quite quickly, but the association agreement cannot be replaced by other procedures. We have to implement all the conditions that we see in the agreement. In parallel, we have committed to implement the 7 conditions that were given to us together with providing the status of the candidate country for the accession to the EU. Therefore, as we implement those 7 conditions while in parallel implementing the association agreement, our ambition is by the end of this year and maybe in early next year to start the next stage in our relations, namely the negotiation procedures that preempt the status of EU member nations. This is the plan that can be found in the directives, in the acquis. We're moving along those procedures. The only thing is that the Ukrainian society is absolutely united today in its wish to become an EU member nation, together with the government, the parliament, the president. All of it allows us to do it quickly and to spend less time on internal political discussions. So we are ready to move quickly, and we're showing it with practical terms. And of course, we're calling upon our European colleagues to support us along this quick road for implementing our desires. Thank you.
We'll pass the word to the Commissioner Borrell, but as you said, Prime Minister, the association agreement procedure is a procedure that cannot be substituted by anyone else. It has to be followed. This step until the complete fulfillment of the conditions. And the Commission will issue a statement in order to see if your level of ambition has been reached. We support your level of ambition. The sooner the quicker. And certainly there is a window of opportunity opened by the historical situation. So if you, as soon as you fulfill the conditions, the negotiation will start. But for that, the Commission will have to issue an evaluation of the fulfillment.
Well, will sound very boring what I'm going to tell you, but it's the same for everyone when it comes to candidate countries. And that is that enlargement is a merit-based process, and enlargement is always conditional upon fulfilling the Copenhagen criteria. And when you look at our opinion, you see very clearly what needs doing to continue to enjoy the candidate status. These are the 7 criteria where we understand that there is already progress being made. Now, if you want to make a link between the DCFTA and the preparation for membership, of course there is a clear link, which is that through the DCFTA, you already have more or less, it's a guesstimate I think, but more or less 70% of all the acquis of EU law covered by the level of cooperation that we have. Now, Ukraine is advancing in implementing, but of course having a free trade area agreement is different from becoming a member. And, of course, the level of responsibility and obligations are different, including the rights that comes with it. Now, when it comes to the EU accession process as such, there's an institutional part and there's a there's a, how should I put it, a down-to-earth part. The institutional part is, of course, always characterized by opinions, negotiation chapters, IGCs. You have this jargon. But never forget about the real integration, meaning the real integration of the society and the economy. And this is what we are doing with Ukraine, with the DCFTA, but also it went a bit unnoticed that already back 2 years ago, when we renewed the Eastern Partnership, we have put on the table possibility for any Eastern partner country to come forward and cooperate with us in areas that normally we don't do with third countries. And this is what you are seeing emerging already with Ukraine, like the roaming area or the transit, the customs transit area agreement. These are elements that brings, of course, integration, real integration on the ground immediately already now. So I don't think that it's only an institutional kind of perspective that you should look at when you're looking at the European integration of Ukraine. And of course, now comes the institutional part. We will provide our assessment on Ukraine as candidate country next year, so in 2023. We have just prepared the opinion, and we will still come back with one part of the opinion, which is outstanding, and that is the level of compliance with the EU acquis, and that you should expect coming end of the year. So I think we have a lot of work ahead of us, and it's always an easy exit to talk about dates, to talk about next steps, but I believe in doing the job on the ground first. Thank you.
Many thanks, and we are running late, so one last question briefly, if possible. Jessica, BBC.
Thank you. Jessica Parker from the BBC. Just to the Prime Minister, obviously Nord Stream 1 has been turned off. There's a fresh squeeze on European energy supplies. Are you worried about European will to support Ukraine this coming winter? And if I can just bring up as well, for the High Representative as well, we have a new UK Prime Minister, Liz Truss. Just your message to her, given the ongoing situation in Ukraine, and to the Prime Minister, would you call on Liz Truss to impose a full Russian visa ban as you are on the EU? Thank you.
Дякую за ваше питання.
Thank you for your question. Let me answer it in the following way. If you look, and I've already said it, if you look at the night show in Russian TV channels, you will see they are talking not only about Ukraine and about their special military operation in Ukraine, as they call it, but they're talking about East European countries, Baltic countries, Germany, and other countries, and the threats coming from the European Union. Why am I saying this? Russia today is waging war with its army in Ukraine. But at the same time, Russia wages a hybrid war in the European continent against the European Union. The gas blackmail, the oil blackmail, creation of the food crisis, migrant crisis, misinformation, cyber attacks, all of these are elements of the large hybrid war created by the Russian Federation and the European continent. So Ukraine has a war fatigue, but abandoning Ukraine alone against Russia, that would be just one of the steps for the further movement of Russia deeper into Europe. The only salvation is for Europe to be united inside Europe, and together with Ukraine, together with the other partners, with the G7, with the United States, with the UK, in unity we can withstand this winter with the gas supplies, with the gas production that we have, with diversification, with no longer being dependent on the Russian energy resources, which is a hybrid weapon today of Russia. And only in that way we all together could win this war, when democracy, fighting for freedom and European values will prevail. This is not the war about fridges or payments for utilities, for heating, for gas. This is a war for values, for European values, for democracy and freedom in this continent. That's why I treat your question with concerns, but I'm convinced that we will overcome those obstacles and we will have a victory, all of us together. Ukraine will win the war against Russia. The European Union will protect the European values and democracy. Thank you.
Well, thank you for this question. It's a good opportunity for me to congratulate Liz for her clear victory and for the clear support that she got from the bodies of the Conservative Party to become the next premier in United Kingdom government. I wish her the best. I wish success, and I hope that we are going to have an important contribution in order to improve the relationship between the United Kingdom with the prospects of the full compliance of the Brexit agreement. And I don't see any clear signal or any clear prospect that the United Kingdom will come back soon to the European Union. So I'm not going to stress my brain by imagining what would happen in this case.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the press conference. Thank you very much, everyone. Ďakujem, do pobачення. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.